Hey, folks, welcome to the podcast today. Yes, we're coming to you a little bit late. Yes, I missed shop talk yesterday. It is what it is. What people don't realize is some probably are aware by now, but we actually have a company policy that every federal holiday is a company holiday.
It's cool.
Yeah. So it is cool because, our guys get a day off on, dare I say, Columbus Day.
You can still say it.
I know, but the politically correct and cool thing is Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah.
I guess like Portland and Seattle and all these like major cities have refused to recognize Columbus Day. So it is Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah. Well, even in Columbus, I live in Columbus, Ohio, and the Mayor Ginter, sent out an email about like how they want to get rid of the Columbus Day, calling it Columbus Day. And there's a statue of Christopher Columbus at Columbus State University, or Columbus State Community College. Sorry. And I don't know if they've taken it down, but it's, I mean, I don't know what you do. You're in a state that's named, or the city that's named Columbus, capital Ohio.
There's some serious irony there. We need to change the name of this holiday.
Right.
Did you ever consider maybe we should change the name of our city? I'm sure somebody is thinking that somewhere.
Right.
Oh, geez. We'll call it the Indigenous People City.
Yeah, sure.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, I don't know. They got to change all the sports teams and, Indigenous People Blue Jackets instead of the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like I'm about as indigenous as it gets.
Yeah.
My family's been in this country for many generations now at this point. Too many to really, okay, you can count them, but it goes back probably a dozen generations, at least some of my ancestors. Right. So like, I don't know at what point you become indigenous.
I don't know. Not sure.
Anyway, folks, sorry, we're just shooting the breeze here as we're giving some of you a chance to sign in and find the show here today. Today is news and reviews. We're going to talk about the Death of Remington.
Slow and painful.
I was thinking rather violent. Yes. It is a sad death, a sad day in this country when a company like Remington is where it is. But we're talking about that. And we also have some product reviews. I'm looking forward to sharing with you all. I've got my pick. Matthew's got his pick. So we'll share what those items are, and it'll be a great episode today. Hello, Bobby and Gary from Michigan, and Curtis and Tim from Riverside, and Brett from Tennessee. I wonder if we have anybody from Florida watching today, because I'll be there in a few days. Looking forward to it.
You will.
And it doesn't appear that I'll be, hit by any hurricanes while I'm there. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God everybody's safe down there, right?
In Florida, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Of course, just had that hurricane, what was it? Delta, Gamma? No, Delta.
Delta, yeah.
Gamma, I think, was a tropical storm that never quite materialized or something. But yeah, Delta, right? That came through Louisiana, parts of Mississippi, eastern edge of Texas, some pretty heavy rains and some winds and stuff, pretty crazy. Our thoughts and prayers go to folks down there that have been hit twice in some of those areas with some severe storms this year so far. But it's one of those things, I'm going to USPSA Nationals, and you plan on something, and there's no guarantee that it's going to happen. Because, a month in advance, 2 months in advance, you're like, hey, I'm going to Florida to shoot USPSA Nationals, but there could be a storm that comes. Anyway, I'm thrilled to go, and it'll be a good time. Hello, Jonatas, Washington State. Todd from Washington as well. Jay, hey, Jay, thanks for watching. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in Florida, buddy, and looking forward to seeing you shoot. I know you're going to tear it up. Ken from North Carolina, Randy from SoCal. Awesome. All right, let's get into today's episode. Let's do it in 3, 2, 1. This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, episode number 451. And welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network. I am your host, Riley Bowman, and I have with me producer, master of many things.
It's me. It's Matthew. Yeah, I'm back.
Matthew Maruster.
Can't get rid of me.
Master Matthew Maruster. That's a mouthful right there.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be back, man. Glad we took a couple. Well, we missed last week, but it's good to be back, man.
That's right. Yeah, last week. So we did only do one episode last week. It was a complicated week. There was lots going on, and anyway, it is what it is. The thing is, we're kind of back on schedule. So traditionally, our Tuesday episodes have been odd-numbered episodes, and Thursdays have been even-numbered episodes. And we got off schedule at one point and stayed off schedule. So now we're back on schedule as far as staying true to the odd even thing. So today's episode is a industry news and gear reviews episode. We got a lot of great content to cover with you guys. We're going to talk about the Death of Remington, their bankruptcy and sell-off, and who has ended up with what. Some pretty interesting things there. We're going to talk about one other major fire manufacturer in this country that is doing really well and is expanding. That's kind of cool. So meanwhile, we have one that's basically dead and another that is the opposite of that. So a little interesting contrast there. We'll get into some stuff with the Supreme Court. We're going to talk about Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Her confirmation hearings going on today in the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, including some things that have already come out of that. So this will be up to date as far as some of that news is concerned. Plus an interesting, not really a report, but a paper. I don't know. What do you call this? What was this? There was some kind of virtual event, online event that Harvard put on where they are basically, the concept was reimagining some of our rights in this country.
Yeah.
Interesting ramifications from this one. So we're going to talk about that as well. Plus a couple of cool products that Matthew and I are going to review. Super excited about today's episode, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by the Rangetech Shot Timer, particularly the Rangetech Bluetooth Shot Timer. Hey, if you don't have a Shot Timer product, here's mine right here. Boom, Rangetech, bam. If you don't have a Shot Timer product, this would be a great place to start because this is the lowest price Shot Timer on the market, and it works, and it works well, and it does stuff that other Shot Timers, frankly, don't do. So check it out. Go to rangetechtimer.com and pick up your own Rangetech Shot Timer.
What you know? What one of the things it does do that it has that light that blinks and gives you a go indicator. So you can visually see a visual indicator rather than only an auditory. So that's pretty cool.
And there's a link in today's episode show notes to an article, actually, that I think Jacob wrote that talks about that and ways to use a Shot Timer product like ours with a visual stimulus instead of, so this little dot, this little hole right here, that little guy right there, those of you that are viewing, that's where the little LED light is that is synchronized with the beep. And so you can actually use that as a visual indicator as opposed to just having an auditory indicator. So pretty cool stuff. Visual indicator is a valuable thing to practice as well, we feel.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are hard of hearing, our Shot Timer, as far as we know, is the only one out there that is hard of hearing compatible because of that visual indicator.
Yeah.
Today's episode also sponsored by a new venture of sorts. So I am authorized to share with you all that concealed.com, we are launching a new brand that we are funneling some of our other existing products into, as well as we're bringing some new products to you here, hopefully in the near future. And this new brand is called Ready Up Gear. ReadyUpGear.com is the site where you can find it. Ready Up Gear spelled, just in case it's not clear, because I know how sometimes audio can be. And speaking of hard of hearing folks, some of you are not, maybe you don't hear the words that come out of my mouth as well. And I don't always dictate my words as clearly as I probably could or should. Ready Up Gear. Ready Up is ReadyUpgear.com. ReadyUpgear.com. We specifically today are talking about a new Ear Pro product. So over-the-ear muffs, hearing protection. Speaking of hard of hearing, we want to make sure those of you that can hear can still hear. So always make sure you shoot with good quality hearing protection. And Ready Up Gear has just launched the new Roger 22 earmuff ear protection. They're meant to be a nice, low cost, affordable hearing protection over the ear muff that are great quality. We have some other products coming here in the near future to the Ready Up Gear brand. You can go to readyupgear.com to check out what's available right now. It's a relatively limited list right now, but that will be growing and expanding here soon. And specifically, if you want to check out the Roger 22 earmuffs, go to readyupgear.com/Roger22, as in ROGER 22, the numerals 2. So, super excited about Ready Up Gear and what that means. And also, again, some of the stuff that's coming. I wish I could tease more than that, but we're going to remain mum on some of the things that we're working on. So, in fact, I'll be sporting the Ready Up Gear Roger 22s at the USPSA Nationals. Excited about that. And if you happen to see any of my match photos or videos, if you look close, you'll get a sneak peek of something that is coming maybe soon. So anyway, guys, all right. Today's episode, we told you, is industry news and gear reviews. Let's talk about the Death of Remington. Matthew, tell us where are we right now, or how do we get to this point?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I said it's kind of been a slow death, right? Like we've seen. I think they've filed bankruptcy at least 2 times that I know of, and in
recent history.
Yeah, I mean, and recently, I don't have a good memory, so it had to be pretty recent. But no, like it had to be within the last couple of years that they've filed bankruptcy twice. They couldn't get their stuff together. They got into kind of some other ventures of different types of firearms and things like that, and that just never really seemed to pan out. And financially, I think they were in a place that they were trying to like kind of grasp at different projects that might be able to pull them out of the trajectory that they were on, and just couldn't do it. And finally, they ended up selling off. But we had covered their bankruptcies and different things about what was happening with Remington on the podcast, I know, for at least 2 years. So this wasn't something shocking, but it sucks because they've been around for 100 years or more.
Yep. Oh yeah. A long time. It is shocking. It is disappointing. You're exactly right. So Remington has become this massive conglomerate, right? Like a number of other companies out there in our industry. For instance, Vista Outdoors, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, massive company with tons of brands under their umbrella. And Remington had done something similar. And then over the years, Remington, they had all these different divisions. They had the Remington Arms, the actual firearms piece, which is Remington's roots, goes back way back. Remington Ammunition, which also has been around a long time. In recent years, they had acquired companies like Barnes Bullets, Bushmaster, Marlon, DPMS, AAC Silencers, Tapco, and other brands. And knowing a few people in the industry, including some that have worked at Remington, I'll tell you this much: Remington had now a pretty strong kind of traditional corporate structure. It was very, I would say, non-flexible in their approach and the way they do things or did things. And so for instance, with acquiring companies like AAC, right, makers of silencers and suppressors, great product, was a booming business when they acquired Remington. One of the reasons why Remington wanted them, acquired them. Paid a lot of money to Kevin B and his, he was the founder of AAC, Kevin Brittingham that is, and you know, and then Remington basically is run I mean, like AAC could have been this really big revenue generator for them, but they've just it's done nothing, right? It hasn't, as far as I know, hasn't really grown in the market. If anything, it's probably shrunk. So it seems like almost anything that Remington has touched has not really done particularly well. And I would say that's usually a sign of how a company is run and who's running it and the culture of that company. We've joked for years about, Remington trying to come out with new handgun products, so the what RP45 or whatever it's called.
Right.
See, I can't. The sad thing is I can't remember what some of these products are because they're so non-memorable.
It's true.
The first time I held that new pistol, I was like, ugh, like really? And they were going after the kind of low end market with it. Well, we're going to make this American made, low cost, and frankly, if you looked at it, pretty low quality pistol. And what a joke of a gun it was. They had the failed launch of that, the R51 or whatever, meaning that it looked like could be a pretty cool single stack 9mm gun. It was based off an old Remington design, but it had problems. And then they had to re-engineer it, and then they sort of relaunched it. And that just through that whole process, it was just a disaster, and it just never took off. The good things they had going was their classic bolt action rifles, their shotguns that have been around a long time and proven platform, and they made pretty decent 1911 and 2011 pistols. That's about it. Well, maybe the ammunition, which okay ammunition. But I would say even that there's not been a lot of innovation in recent history, and quality I would say has suffered as well. Because I mean, some like your standard Remington like UMC ammo, your cheap plinker ammo. I never had in recent years. I haven't had good success with that stuff. As far as having duds, in every box of ammo you pretty much would buy. At least I had a few. So anyway, Remington dies a slow death, as you described it. We've talked about it before. We talked about the bankruptcy, I think, even in our last news episode. But here's the latest update. Here's the latest news on Remington. So Remington sold off a bunch of assets, and here's what we know. So right now, the winning bidders for Remington's assets. So the Remington Firearms portion of the business has been bought by an investor group called Round Hill Group. They also acquired another Remington asset known as Dakota Firearms, which probably nobody's heard of. Also acquired by Round Hill Group. The ammunition division, I know Palmetto State Army was trying hard to get the ammo division, but actually Vista Outdoor got Remington ammo. And you know what? That's probably for the best because Federal's killing it. Okay, Federal, CCI, Spear, all that whole conglomerate, that operation, they're making good stuff. They're making good quality ammunition. Okay. And I think Vista Outdoor will take Remington ammo, and I assume they're going to keep the name. I assume they're going to, because that name does carry some very significant brand equity. A lot of weight in that Remington name, and even in that ammunition division. But I imagine that the quality will improve and that they'll get things up and going. The sad thing is we're in this massive ammunition shortage, Matthew, and literally like as this is happening, Remington is imploding and laying people off and shutting things down. Like 600 employees were furloughed like 3 weeks ago. I think from even just maybe that was company wide or maybe that was their ammunition. I don't remember. So here you basically have a major manufacturer that's probably not even really making ammo right now.
Yeah, and not just the ammo, but the guns too. I mean, people are buying guns at crazy numbers.
Yep.
And they can't sell. It's like, it's just it's a definite sign that it was unsustainable, whatever they were doing.
Yep. So Round Hill Group acquiring the firearms division, who knows what's going to happen with that, right? Whether it's going to turn it around or not. Remington Ammo, I think I think that was a good thing. That was a good acquisition by Vista Outdoor. Barnes Bullets, acquired by Sierra Bullets. Also, I think a good thing. This one's kind of exciting. Ruger acquired Marlon Firearms. Marlon's been owned by Remington for a number of years. I think that's a good thing. I think Ruger will improve upon Marlon. I think will even maybe I think they'll stay true somewhat to Marlon's roots, but maybe we'll see some new innovative things come out of Marlon as well. Bushmaster, acquired by Franklin Army Holdings. So Franklin Army, that kind of makes some really interesting stuff, usually AR-15 related. They acquired Bushmaster. Tapco was acquired by Sportsman's Warehouse, of all places. Thought that was interesting. And then get this, Palmetto State Armory acquired DPMS, H&R Firearms, AAC Silencers, Parker Shotguns, and Storm Lake Barrels.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And I think in most of these cases, particularly with Ruger, Sierra, Vista Outdoor, I think those were positive acquisitions. I don't know what PSA, what this means, whether that's a good thing for these brands, neither a good thing nor a bad thing, or if it's a bad thing. I think time will tell. I think Palmetto's trying to do some innovative things. I think they want to be a big player. I think they want to improve their quality and quality control. Whether they can actually do that and overcome their reputation, I don't know. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Time will tell.
It's pretty interesting that they have a whole silencer company now as part of Palmetto State Armory. So I'll bet they're pretty excited about that as well.
Oh yeah, and they're a good company. They do well. So we'll see.
Yeah. Paul asks, what does anybody know about Round Hill Group? I know nothing. Apparently there's some kind of real estate investor company. So basically it sounds like an investor group that just has a lot of money. And so they're able to acquire the firearms division. So we will see. Yeah. We will see. Could be interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So that's the current news on Remington and where a lot of those assets are going to end up. And of course, there's no guarantee that these companies that acquired any of these are going to continue them, but I imagine that in many cases they will, because again, these are brands that do have a strong brand recognition in the industry. People have positive feelings even toward a lot of these brands. I'm positive towards Marlon. My first rifle I bought was a Marlon 60-22 long rifle. And I still own that rifle. It's a great little 22 blinker. I love shooting that thing. So I have these positive feelings towards some of those brands and look forward to seeing what the future brings.
Right on.
All right, on to some contrasting news. This actually just came out this morning. This is a fresh press release from Sig Sauer. Sig Sauer announces expansion of their New Hampshire operations to Rochester, New Hampshire, which is just up the road from their. So here's the thing. The company's been, their headquarters have been based in Newington for some number of years now, which is just, it's right there with, what's the other little, it's right there on the Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Newington is just right there next to Portsmouth. Exeter, New Hampshire is where the firearms have actually been built at a plant there for a number of years. Okay. And that's just like 15, 20 minutes away. Well, apparently they're running out of room. So they have acquired a massive building or complex. It's called the Crossroads Industrial Park. It sits on 35 acres with up to 210,000 square feet of space. They're saying this is an expansion, and it's a multi-building campus, but it looks like they're talking about moving manufacturing, because that's what it says here. It says that they are moving manufacturing capabilities and operations to this Rochester campus. Mm-hmm. So either way, this is an expansion, and pretty exciting stuff for Sig Sauer. Talk about a company that has a lot of the same types of components like what Remington had, but has a totally different story.
Sure.
Right, where they're winning all these massive contracts, where every year it seems like they just keep going gangbusters and releasing new exciting industry changing stuff. Now look at how changing to the industry the P365 has been.
Yeah, it forced a lot of other companies to compete, right?
Right.
You got the Hellcat. I mean, yeah, and that's the cool thing. And I think we covered not too long ago. Didn't they just open up a new manufacturing plant in the States? They moved something.
The ammunition division
Yeah,
down in Arkansas.
that's what
That's a
it was.
relatively new plant. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So, but here's a company, right, that has firearms, ammunition, silencers, that has optics division, right? All they've got a lot of the same. Oh, and they're
training
talk about
academy.
the ammunition. They've got their own bullets, right? Their own design and everything. Training, yes, the 6-hour academy. So they have all these same kind of pieces like what Remington had, but very, very different, right? I mean, so when Remington came out with the R51, I think that they felt like that was pretty innovative. And I remember there was all this press about the design of the R51 and how it was going to be a lot, less recoiling, flatter shooting, single stack, or micro compact 9mm. And that may have been true, but contrast that with something like the P365 that literally turned the whole sub and micro compact world upside down on its head. Right? That's the contrast. And this is a country, 6 Hour I'm talking about now, that they catch a lot of flack, and probably rightfully so, in that some of their innovation a lot of times gets them in trouble. I say gets them in trouble. They might not think that, but things like changing optics and footprints and little design changes on some of the pistols, like even look at the P320 series, right? Little things that have changed. Things like, well, they had one design in the P320, but then they come up with the X series 320s, and the magazine design has to change because the old magazines don't fit in the new X series frame or grip module. So just it's stuff like that they're constantly innovating, and that comes with pros and cons. And pros are they come out with products that change the industry and drives for them a lot of business, which is why they're successful. But also the innovation sometimes means they do stuff that pisses people off.
Right.
So I guess we'll take the innovation that sometimes changes things that maybe people don't want changed, but we'll take that over a company that's flourishing and expanding and growing and providing more American industry and jobs than one that is a big flop and a failure in recent history.
Yeah. It's sad.
Right?
It's sad. It's sad for Remington, but it's kind of a cautionary tale, right? You can do it good, you can do it bad. The company's been around 100 years and they couldn't sustain what they were doing. And I think it all goes into like what you're talking about, innovation. Because if you don't innovate, at least in today's, ability to get stuff online and buy stuff and look at this and this and look at different prices right there. It's no longer like, well, I gotta, look through a Sears catalog to buy something, right? Like I can get instant comparisons of things. And if you're not innovating and it's just, you're not going to make it today. You're just not going to do it. So,
yeah, I agree. I think the key is if you can be extremely innovative, but do it in a I guess maybe a more controlled fashion. I don't know if that's a way of framing it.
Yeah.
One company that's a bit of a sleeper company that we should probably talk about sometime in greater depth, perhaps even on this podcast, and that's Walter, particularly their U.S. division and what they're doing here. Bit of a sleeper. Okay, just prepare yourself, folks. That Walter is doing a lot of really cool stuff and a lot of the right stuff, I think. In that what's coming out of Walter is very promising and very good quality, very well designed, and again, innovative. So just keep an eye on Walter. I would just kind of throw it out there as a little bit of a of a tip. And I know for a fact, by the way, that at SHOT Show, assuming there is a SHOT Show this year, Walter will be releasing some pretty cool stuff.
There's some insider trading stuff, Riley.
I don't have. No, it's out there. There's whisperings of it out there. It's just, I don't personally have a lot of specifics, but I know some folks that know, and I know that there's some cool stuff coming.
Cool.
Let's turn now to this Harvard report. Pushes gun control as rights reimagined. This according to bearingarms.com, but there's an associated link in the show notes as well that shoots you over to the actual publishing of this on Harvard's website. And I'll just give you a heads up that if you go to that Harvard website article, you want to scroll down and click on a link that says see the executive summary, and that's where you're going to see the real meat and potatoes of what's in here. And I took a little bit of a deep dive into this to see what they really were saying about reimagining the Second Amendment. Matthew, give me your take and what you found in this.
Yeah, first of all, maybe it's a pet peeve with me, but I hate the word reimagining. I don't know what it means. Like, I don't think it has any substance or value. But anyways, this report goes into how to reimagine a bunch of different rights that we believe basically are God-given or innate rights that the government doesn't give to us, but we have them just because we exist, right? And so the government exists to protect those rights so they can't be taken away. And so it goes through all of these rights that we are basically the foundation of our freedoms. And one of them, obviously, the Second Amendment. So it's pertinent to our discussion. So they go through and they set up this analysis that they do, and it's completely biased. They make a bunch of assertions that are not backed up with any statistical facts or reality. And then they go into 5 different ways that you can reimagine rights and responsibilities. And one is mandate gun regulation. Number 2 is ban categories of gun sales and restrict gun ownership. Number 3 is regulate the sale and manufacture of guns. Number 4 is institute federal gun buyback programs, like they owned them to begin with. And number 5, expand research and polling on gun violence. And all of this is, and they break it down and give you, their ridiculous justification for these 5 things, but all of it stems around the idea that the gun is the problem of violence. Like there's no other aspect that's related to society's influence or, any other factors to somebody committing a crime with a firearm. It's all, if there were no guns, or if we did these 5 things and, made it so impossible that anybody could have a gun, then that would somehow end violence. Right. Yep. And we know it doesn't happen, but it's just, and it comes across as this, like they try to bill it as this, like, oh, it's a nonpartisan, it's a think tank of all these different ideas and we're coming together. And it's an echo chamber for gun control to the extreme. And they're trying to phrase it as, oh, we're just reimagining your freedoms. Well, no, you're not reimagining. And well, maybe you are. I guess maybe that's the term. Reimagining is you're imagining them going away. Like that's your imagination. But it's interesting reading.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'm looking at the actual link on Harvard's website, and this is how this is explained: is that researchers at Harvard Kennedy School's Carr Center for Human Rights provides a guide for the nation wrestling with its values. Because this is all this turmoil and stuff, right? So we don't know who we are anymore.
Right.
We're in this period of trying to rediscover who we are as Americans. Blueprint for protecting and expanding citizens' rights. So they tell us that the goal is to expand citizen rights. Right. Proposes policy changes to strengthen democratic processes, safeguard equal protection, equal opportunity, and due process of law, and better protect freedoms of speech, media, religion, and privacy. Curious that they mentioned some things there that are guaranteed in the Bill of Rights, specifically speech, media, religion, privacy, but they don't mention the Second Amendment. So this is supposedly all about increasing or improving or expanding citizens' rights, everything except for the Second Amendment one. So on the surface, some of that sounds really good, and I haven't dived into some of the parts of this report, but you covered the basics as far as what they're basically saying about firearms, and they want to they're recommending that we restrict gun rights, further. Sure. Because the government needs to balance public safety with the Second Amendment, with the individual's rights to own a gun. What's curious? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, which is done right now. Like, there are certain limitations, right? Like the Supreme Court's rule that yes, you can balance those two things, but what they're advocating is not a balance. They're saying it's a balance, but what they want is basically a total gun confiscation ban type thing, where nobody except the ultra connected or wealthy would be able to have firearms. Yeah. And it's crazy because the justification, I mean, like how they're doing this, they put some statistics in there that don't even correlate. Like one of the statistics in here, they say that 2020 national poll demonstrated that Americans seeking this balance, 52% believe that America has the right to bear arms. 52%. Okay. And they say that that is very important. But then they go in and say many more, 85% believe that a right to personal safety is very important. And they basically put the two at odds with one another, when in reality, if somebody's concerned about the right to personal safety, that also puts them pro 2A, because that is that's why people carry firearms, right? Like,
I'm glad you actually cued in on the same thing I picked up on when I was reading this. I was actually going to share this very same quote from this report. They quote these two statistics. 52% believe right to bear arms is very important, but many more, 85%, believe a right to personal safety is very important, as if they're not two inclusive things. That they're, I mean, because if imagine you're doing a poll, right? You're calling around, you're doing a survey, and you're asking people, do you believe a right to personal safety is important?
Who's going to say no?
And I define my personal safety by my ability to carry my gun with me, or to have my gun at home in ready to use configuration to defend my family or my person at home or abroad.
Yeah,
This is a problem when you get smart, educated people talking about things and researching things that they don't understand themselves, because there's definitely some Dunning-Kruger effect going on here with these very smart Harvard educated people doing these studies.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, because what's happening is people are starting to give up their freedoms because they're being coerced to believe that those freedoms are bad. And instead of understanding that sure, we don't want every single person, if you're a terrorist, you're a convicted terrorist, you blew up the World Trade Center, nobody thinks that person should have a firearm, right? Like, I don't think so. I think that that's not gun control. That's balancing those things, right? But it doesn't mean that they're not going to be capable of getting one. And the only way that they're going to prohibit everybody who they believe shouldn't have a firearm is to make them so impossible to purchase, to produce. I mean, this goes into, remember, one of them is where is it? It's Reimagining. Here we go. It is one of the ways to reimagine is ban categories of gun sales and restrict gun ownership, and then regulate the sale and manufacture. So it's a multi-pronged attack to keep people from even having the ability to have a firearm. Not just bad people that kill people, but you that want to defend your family. It's crazy. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, I'm sure somebody out there is going to point at this Harvard study report thingy and say, hey, Harvard says this is what we got to do.
Exactly.
And then those guys are really smart over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're probably too smart for their own good.
Yeah,
that's the way I see it.
I'm sure they're smart. They're probably smarter than I am. I wouldn't deny that. But I will tell you that if you can't understand that people own firearms for self-defense, and when you ask them a question, 85% say self-defense is important, and you don't tie that to firearm ownership, and you think it's the opposite, you might be smart, but you don't understand. You're not wise in what you're actually doing. You're looking at it through a lens with a specific goal. And that's why you miss something like that, because you don't go into it objectively. You look at it and how can we manipulate these statistics to prove our already, conclusion. So
I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not trying to intentionally manipulate things. It could be that, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on that, but more just that they don't understand. I mean, you have to keep in mind, this is a Harvard University team of researchers that are probably also Harvard educated or by other Ivy League schools. They live in the Boston area of Massachusetts. So very far cry, very different from people who live in Kansas, Iowa, Oklahoma, Utah, right? Mississippi, Florida. I mean, just they don't even have any frame of reference or any way of understanding how other people think. And then when I say that they're probably too smart for their own good, what I'm getting at is that, yeah, this is like the separation between book smarts and street smarts. And the separation there is that you can get so stinking smart that stuff in theory sounds really good, but the reality is very different.
Yeah. I believe that people are people, and like you mentioned, they live in a different area and they're different. And I think I'll qualify, and I know what you're saying, but just to clear it up for somebody who just, is listening for, 30 seconds. People are people. We're all the same, but because of where we live, that might shape the way we look at certain political, politics and things in general. But what these types of studies do, and I use the term study loosely, is it is definitely has a slant based off of their own limited view of the world. And if you read this, tell me if, and I'm just going to read a sentence from this study and tell me if this has anything to do with reimagining gun rights. And it says, gun owners are predominantly white, older, rural, and Southern. What in the world does that have to do with a right? It has zero. Like, I don't care if you're white or black or yellow or whatever. I don't care if you're older or younger, rural, city, Southern, Northern, Western, Eastern. It doesn't matter. So why, when we're in a debate or a conversation about rights, do those things come in? Well, it only comes in if you're trying to you're trying to present a specific ideology and a specific end result. And then when you go through and read this, it is inside this you'll just begin to start seeing these red flags. Just it's not objective. There's nothing to do with you're reimagining rights. Sure, you're reimagining the country in a way that you want it to be, and that's not how people want. People don't want to be categorized by race or where they live as different, and I just this was upsetting to me to read. like that. But, I'll get off my soapbox.
Cool. Because we need to move on.
Okay. Sorry.
No, you're fine, bro. TacticalLife.com reports that the ATF rules the Q's the company, Honey Badger pistol is an SBR in violation of the National Firearms Act. So the Q Honey Badger is, think of an AR-15 style pistol that's refined, right? So it is its own unique design. They did some tweaks to the receivers and various things to come up with this Honey Badger design. It's pretty cool. It's a cool looking thing too. And they have their own proprietary pistol brace that is associated with this gun. So essentially, this is a 7-inch barrel. Typically, it's a 300 blackout chambered, short-barreled pistol with a stabilizing brace, similar to the SB Tactical design that many other users are familiar with and use and love. Of course, this has been an area of concern for a number of years, meaning that this is the idea of a stabilizing brace and can I shoulder it? Can't I shoulder it? All this stuff has been a debate for a long time. ATF has gone one way and another way and back another way. But the idea of having a stabilizing brace on a short-barreled platform like this is nothing new and is quite common in today's age. And in fact, it is common enough that if this were to be applied some sort of legal standard as far as evaluating if this is a platform in common use, it's getting almost to that level where these AR style pistols are pretty commonly in use,
Sure.
Right? I'm just making that a point because of potential legal challenges that might come down the road, stuff like this. I also like to point out that if you're being true to the idea of a stabilizing brace, it really is something that does help certain individuals, folks with certain disabilities, missing limbs, for instance, be able to shoot a rifle style platform one-handed more easily. Mm-hmm. So I often wonder with stuff like this, if we could end up with some kind of ADA type challenge to the ATF trying to eliminate a class of firearms, because now all of a sudden, what do these individuals do that might actually depend on a platform like this to hunt or shoot with? Sure. Anyway, the Honey Badger with its unique pistol brace, recently Q received a letter saying that they have reclassified this as an SBR, a short-barreled rifle, which under legal definition means it has to be taxed. And you've got to apply and pay your $200 tax for a stamp to acquire one of these. This is throwing into, it's muddying the waters in a big way with regards to short-barreled rifle-like pistol platforms. I own a couple of similar things, right? Many others do as well. Now, so far, I've only heard that ATF has only sent this letter so far to Q and saying this specific firearm with this brace is no longer can be considered a pistol and a stabilizing brace. It must be defined as an SBR. But I kind of feel like that this could spread into something more.
Well, yeah, because they didn't send in the letter, they didn't designate why this brace versus that brace, right? Like why this brace, not that brace. They didn't explain it and say, well, because of these features, this, is not like that. And so the idea is, well, why this? Does that open the door for that to be banned as well? or not banned, but taxed as well, or the classification changed. And what do these gun owners do now? They've legally purchased these. Are they going to grandfather them in? Probably not. So what do? You transfer it out of your name. You do all kinds of legal mumbo jumbo just to have the same thing at the end of the day. And so I think that's the scary thing. And, because the DOJ is basically making up legislating. They're making up a law that, and not explaining it. We don't know who they're not elected. They're bureaucrats, right? Like, so we don't know.
Yep.
That's the troubling thing. And I will say that, the White House did put out a statement, and it said they're working with DOJ to protect our rights. The White House and leadership at Department of Justice reviewing this matter to ensure there's no interference with the ability of law-abiding citizens, including lawful firearms manufacturers, to exercise their constitutionally guaranteed liberties. So they may, who knows if this is a rogue, little person or group of people who wanted to do this, or what it is, but hopefully, smart people will prevail, and they'll either say, this is the thing that we have a problem with this specific brace, and if you tweak it, you're in, or they say it was in error and we're withdrawing that, or whatever. But it's got to be resolution somewhere.
Yeah. You mentioned the White House putting out its statement, but keep in mind it's the same White House that pushed for bump stock to be banned. So,
right.
I have very little faith in a statement like that. And there was a clarifier in that we're going to review and make sure this isn't, infringing on people's rights.
Right.
Well, they come back and say, nope, we feel like if the ATF is right in this regard. I do appreciate that at the bottom of this article are a bunch of contacts. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations and the committee that oversees funding of the DOJ and ATF is the chairman of that committee is Richard Shelby of Alabama. Chairman of the Subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies, also responsible for funding the ATF. That is Senator Jerry Moran of Kansas. Senator Lindsey Graham, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, responsible for ATF oversight. Of course, he's senator of South Carolina, in a bit of a tight race there. Got Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. Good dude. I like Jim Jordan. Ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee. And I appreciate that all the contact info is there. We are being asked to contact congressional leadership, hopefully bring this to their attention as well. Let them know this is going on, and perhaps they can put some pressure on things somewhere as well, or do some kind of investigation, because, man, the way this game that ATF keeps playing is just, it's a nasty, nasty game, right? Where it's like, well, today this thing is okay, but tomorrow it's not, right? But wait, already 100 million Americans or whatever has, that's probably a bit of a stretch, but already this many million of these things have been sold and are owned by Americans, by lobbying Americans. It's like with the whole bump stock thing, right? Oh, it's banned, and you're going to have to sell it back to the government. I suspect that if this goes widespread with regards to pistol braces, that's where it is headed. It'll go the way of the bump stock, that they will push to have this be a mandatory sell back to the government of your legally owned pistol braces. So, yeah. We don't want to be asleep at the wheel on this one.
Agreed.
We need to move along. Just going to touch real quick on Justice Amy Coney Barrett, President Trump's nominee to the U.S. Supreme Court. The hearings began this morning in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, where she has been brought before them. And actually, I think there were some hearings yesterday as well. Anyway, yes. I was listening to it this morning. Really interesting stuff. And she had some pretty interesting things and some good things to say. But our own Josh Gillum, managing editor of concealedcarry.com, our blog and editorial content on the site, he was watching and listening this morning as well, and picked up on something that she said in response to a question asked by Senator Dianne Feinstein. And she was asked about balancing government's compelling interest, as she called it, to prevent gun violence, together with Second Amendment and personal individual rights. And Amy Coney Barrett's response said that what she will say about regards to Heller is that the Heller decision leaves room for gun regulations. And that's why there has been a lot of litigation in the lower courts, which makes me constrained not to comment on the limits of it. But Heller does not make a right absolute, which says so the opinion. So there's some concern that she may not be as absolutist, if you will, on the Second Amendment as what we would love to see, of course. Now, honestly, that wouldn't necessarily be a surprise. Keep in mind that these individuals, people that are considered something like the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, have got to be absolutely reasonable people. And that means that sometimes what is considered to be reasonable may not necessarily always jive with what we think or we'd like to think is reasonable. Particularly with something like the Second Amendment, because it's easy to say the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. However, for a long time and since the very early days of this country, I'm just saying what the reality is, that there have been some restrictions on firearm ownership. Mm-hmm. So in other words, there's a history of it. And not only that, but Supreme Court justices must not only consider the literal wording of the Constitution, but also prior precedent. And there is quite a bit of precedent. And there's a wonder if her response here, she's not incorrect. The Heller decision was not an absolute defining of a right. There are limitations to it. And almost everything the Supreme Court involves itself these days, I believe, should. Because when things start becoming very absolute in how the Supreme Court rules on certain matters, then it can cross over into making law, being legislative in their approach rather than interpreting very narrow, well-defined issues.
Right.
So this is a tough thing, because we would love for a court that says shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. However, it's very complicated. This is a very complex issue. When we're talking about our courts and our court system, and also someone that is being very much drilled by the Senate Judiciary Committee right now by all sides, and she needs to try to sometimes things need to be worded in a very diplomatic way. So it's also hard to understand exactly what her true meaning is as well. Now, we could point to her Cantor decision out of the Seventh Court of Appeals that she considers to be her most defining thing that she's, decision that she's been a part of. And that is a very telling case to look at, because it is a case where a man that was convicted of a nonviolent felony then sued the court, appealed to the court to have his Second Amendment rights restored because, hey, I didn't do anything bad. I didn't violate the law with a gun. I didn't commit a violent crime. I did do this thing. I've served my time. Now I'd like to have my guns back, please. And in a 3-panel judge ruling, where 2 said, we're going to go with an intermediate scrutiny test on this matter, meaning that they gave the government a lot more leeway in its restriction of Second Amendment rights. She went with a strict scrutiny standard, which I think that should be more the standard in Second Amendment matters. And I think her dissenting opinion on that case is very telling about the way she views the Second Amendment. And I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah.
Your take.
No, I agree. I was going to make those same comments or points at the end that I know you can take the quote she said about Heller as that she's not pro 2A, but I think when her answers and watching her answer these questions, she was sticking strictly to the text of the Constitution and the ruling and the scope of Heller decision, right? And truthfully, she's correct. Like, just like you said, that it doesn't, it does leave open the possibility for more regulation. And I don't think that we can necessarily jump to the conclusion that because she views the Heller decision that way, that she's for gun reform or gun control or whatever you want to call it. And exactly like you said, I think she's very, she was very impressive listening to her answer. And I think when you look at that decision, when she dissented, and she even said, that there is a difference between a violent felony and felonies. Like, people get felonies for crazy stuff and they lose their rights. And she said, there's a difference between a constitutionally protected right and something that is a civic right, like voting, where it's not necessarily a constitutionally protected right. It's a civic right. And here is a Second Amendment right. And so we restore for this, right? But we're not restoring rights for this. And so she got kind of grilled on that, but I think her answers are far more articulate than me explaining her answer. But I have a feeling that she's going to be, and truthfully, we want somebody who's going to interpret or take the Constitution, not change it around, interpret it as it should be. And I think she's the person. And if that's the case, then, the decisions come back favorable for the Second Amendment.
Yeah. Well, I'm optimistic as well in that regard. Yeah. I just give you just referencing that Cantor decision again, and her approach in that decision. And I know we need to move on, but where she took more of a strict scrutiny approach in her dissent. And what a strict scrutiny then requires is that the government must show how doing X thing protects the people's interest and safety. And in regards to this Cantor case, her point is the government can't really show how keeping guns out of the hands of non-violent offenders like Cantor or Martha Stewart, another great example, how that is related to the goal of protecting public safety.
Right.
I appreciate that approach. That is a refreshing. Approach to this type of issue, because again, clearly she was in the minority in that decision, and it just goes to show how important our picks, those that are selected for the federal courts, are because there's so much that takes place below the Supreme Court that. She's a well-qualified judge. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully she doesn't let us down, assuming that she is put in. I believe that she will be. But I'm optimistic at least. We need to move on and get to our gear reviews, Matthew.
All right.
I'm going to go first this time. I think you went first last time.
Yeah, probably.
I could be wrong, but that's what I recall. So I'm super excited to share with you all it's a new product for me. I just got this in my hands a few weeks back, and this is the Fix-It Sticks The Works kit. This is a tool kit. They call it The Works. They have a number of different kits and different, options out there for various purposes, but The Works is a pretty comprehensive kit, covers a lot of different angles, pistol, rifle, and even shotguns to some extent, meaning that we even have things like a choke adapter key in this kit for changing out chokes and stuff on a variety of chamberings as far as shotguns go. So that's pretty cool. But in this kit, we've got tons of different 1/4 inch, your standard hex 1/4 inch bits in a bunch of different sizes, both in hex keys, Phillips, flatheads, Torx, metric and standard both, particularly on the hex key side. Super, a lot of options there for pretty much anything that you can imagine you would need for turning, tightening, loosening something on a gun or a gun related product. You've got bits for that purpose. You've got a little 1/2-inch socket and a socket adapter. You could certainly add additional sockets as needed if you had specific needs or uses. You've got a 1911 takedown tool. You got a pry bar. You got a Glock sight tool in here even. You got the choke tool. You've got AR-15 tools for cleaning bolts and bolt carrier groups on an AR-15. We've got a castle nut wrench tool, punches, cleaning tools. We got a cleaning brush here, cleaning rods. This is set up right now for like a pistol. You could add more rods to this if you want more length for a longer barreled firearm. Got an AR-15 sight tool, an A2 front sight tool. And then all of this works with this nifty little T-style wrench that allows you to put the bits and tools in any one of these 3 ends for using it as an actual T wrench, or if you need more leverage, you can turn and use it this way, where you use the longer part of the handle and put the bits or the tools in the shorter, in the T part of the handle, I should say. Here's the other thing that's really exciting about this kit is it also comes with torque limiters, essentially torque wrenches. Torque limiters set already to a specific weight or torque amount. And this kit comes with torque limiters of 15 inch-pounds, 25, 45, and 65 for a variety of uses and purposes. Really, really cool. I mean, this right away had value to me because this 15 inch-pound torque limiter is perfect for some of my optics, my red dot optics. A lot of times they're spec'd for using somewhere in the 15 foot-pound or 15 inch-pound range for tightening the screws on red dots that are mounted on pistols and things like that. So that is super cool because I don't have to worry about over torquing and breaking screws as I'm maybe making a change or installing a new red dot on a pistol or that sort of thing. So really, 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 really cool. By the way, those torque limiters aren't inexpensive, and there are 4 of them that come in this kit. Fix-It Sticks does have, I think, a newer product that is actually an adjustable torque limiter, and you can instead buy one of those. And you can buy these kits in a variety of setups and kind of customize or add to or take away from the kits as you see fit to fit your specific needs. Here's the thing. It is not inexpensive, but this is a really, really great toolkit in one all-in-one package that pretty much has everything that I need. This is going with me to USPSA Nationals because this is a small, convenient, compact package that has everything I need in case I got to do instant, on-the-spot repairs or adjustments to my equipment when I'm at a major match like Nationals. Fix-It Sticks. The Works kit retails for $299. So not inexpensive. I get that. But a really great kit, and you could tell it's quality. I mean, even down to hollow ground, your flat head screws and things like that are shaped the way you want them to, so you're less likely to strip screws, things like that. Really, really high quality steel. It's just a great kit. I'm really impressed with this kit from Fix-It Sticks.
Very cool. Very cool.
The logo's on there somewhere. Can't see it in the camera. So
Cool,
check it out. Fixitsticks.com, by the way. That's the website. Fixit, FIXITSTICKS.com. I'm pretty sure is the website.
You make me want to go buy one now.
I've wanted one for a while and was finally able to snag one. So
cool. Very cool. All right. So I'll make mine pretty brief. It's actually 3 items that I'm reviewing for Tyrant Design CNC. They make aftermarket products for handguns and ARs and stuff, mostly for Glocks, some M&P Shield, and some Sig Sauer guns. But what they sent me was an extended slide stop or slide release, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. A back plate, slide back plate cover, and a magazine base extension or magazine base plate. But here, the cool one that I really like is this extended slide stop. There you go. You can see it right there. so in the article I wrote, I kind of almost wanted to call it, instead of an extended slide stop, an enhanced slide stop, because it does have that chevron pattern, but it doesn't extend out much further than the stock one. I've been using a Vickers extended slide stop, which I liked, and it has a little protrusion on there, and I've used that for years. Riley mentioned that, with bigger hands, and I've seen that happen where, with bigger hands and this, you get a thumbs forward grip. Sometimes you can engage that slide stop, but this one, it seems to get the benefit, from the texture of it, that chevron pattern, rather than making it stick out even more. So you may still have that with, if you had an issue with that before, you might have it with this one, but maybe not, I don't know, but it feels really good. You can engage it really easily. So I know some people struggle with locking the slide back, and sometimes they just can't get that slide stop up, but that helps. And then right here, you can see the back plate right there. Pretty cool. It doesn't do anything as far as enhancing the performance of the gun, but it looks nice, and it's black. You can get these in different colors. I don't want something shiny or reflective or emblazoned with pictures and stuff. So it's nice. It has a little nice texture to it, but it doesn't reflect light, and it's subdued. So I like that. And then this base plate right here, all of this is CNC aluminum. You can see the base plate, just a basic Glock base plate, slides on really easily, but gives a little bit of weight and a little bit of more texture to the bottom of the magazine. And so, yeah, so that review should be publishing here pretty soon. But so far so good. I like it. And, like I said, they're not really a performance enhancement for the slide stop, or I guess if you added a little bit of weight to your magazine, it could help it drop free a little bit easier, or you get a little bit more grip or something. That's all subjective stuff, but visually they look nice. They perform well. I haven't seen anything. It's a drop-in replacement, so and pretty easy replacement on all those parts. So your average person can do it. So yeah, Tyrant Design CNC. They got a whole bunch of different colors and different stuff over there, but check it out. I think it's tyrantdesign.com, I believe, but Google it, you'll find it.
I'm going to check you on that, bro.
I think so.
Not tyrantdesigns.com.
Let me pull it up. They're going to...
tyrantcnc.com.
There you go. Tyrantcnc.com. That's what I said.
Yep. Tyrantcnc.com. You got me like self-doubting myself now on the fixitsticks.com. I was correct.
All right. You normally are correct.
Yeah. All right. So guys, thanks for listening to our reviews of these products today. Yeah, I was seriously impressed with the Fix-It Sticks product. I saw your stuff on social that you kind of posted and talked about a little bit, Matthew, and looks like, good quality stuff. I might give one of those a try, like the slide stop on a Glock or something, because I wouldn't mind something a little bit more substantial than the stock one, but I got to be really careful. It's not so much the protrusion. I do think it's some of that, just as I roll my grip into the gun, my palm gets up there pretty close to where that slide stop is. And this doesn't take a lot. If there's something there to snag it, the protrusion of the Vickers tactical one was just enough for my palm to get it. And
sure.
I get these false slide lock backs, and you're thinking you're out, and you realize you're dumping a half empty or half full mag.
Sure.
That's not cool. That's
right.
Actually really concerning in a gunfight.
Oh, yeah.
To be going along and all of a sudden your gun's locked back, and there's no reason for it to be. This is where it's really important that we not only shoot and practice with our guns, but really pressure test some of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when I'm shooting in a kind of more relaxed pace or in a relaxed manner, I don't have that problem with the Vickers tactical slide stop. But as soon as I start, really getting aggressive with the gun, shooting like a bill drill, that's the classic way that I end up getting that premature slide lock back is you need to be aggressive. And so pressure testing that equipment, making sure that stuff works for you in a variety of situations and situations you need to make sure that stuff works.
Sure.
So
Sure.
thanks for your review of the Tyrant Design stuff, man.
Yeah, man.
I know you did one on their compensator.
Yep, a while back. Yep.
Yep.
That was pretty cool too.
Yep.
They make some good stuff.
Cool, man. Right on. Well, we better let folks go. It's been over an hour, but hope you enjoyed the episode today. We remind you that today's episode made possible because of your support of episode and podcast sponsors, today being primarily Rangetech shot timers. You can find them at rangetechtimer.com. And hope you would check that out. If you don't have a shot timer already, that'd be the place to go. And also the new readyupgear.com brand. Okay, so you can go to readyupgear.com, check things out, and check out the new Roger 22 over-the-ear ear protection. Go to readyupgear.com/Roger22 to check out the new Roger 22 muffs. I've been wearing them for a little while now, and I like them. They're good product. And we got some, like I said, some new stuff, some other stuff coming that will make things even better. I'm excited about that. So stay tuned. So with that, we're going to bug on out of here, let you guys all go. I hope you all take care and are safe wherever you are. And until the next time, train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care.